Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session of the Global Learning Summit, Leadership in Action. We have this session an interview with our EarthCorps Executive Director, Evlyn Andrade. My name is Adam Nebenzahl. I am a board member with EarthCorps and was in the past a leadership volunteer coordinator in 2019. I originally joined having a background in the environment and wanted to continue that process. And I am super excited to be on the board of directors again, having been previously a board fellow. And really enough about me. I wanted to introduce Evlyn today. Evlyn became the EarthCorps third executive director in January 2022. We are so thrilled to talk about her vision she's casting for a greener and healthier planet. So Evlyn, I guess we'll start off as we dive into your leadership at EarthCorps. Can you give us some background on why you were interested in EarthCorps? Do you have a background in nonprofit leadership and or conservation and environmental justice?
Yes, good questions. So I'll start with my background a little bit and then talk about my interests at EarthCorps. So small background in the nonprofit. My background varies. I've done a lot of things in my career, but most recently, before coming to EarthCorps, I had two roles in the environmental space. Three, I guess, if you count that I ran for office on a platform based on environmental justice and then went on to work as a development director at a nonprofit that did policy and advocacy work. And we were a very small nonprofit when I had first joined. And so in addition to fundraising, I also got to continue my advocacy work and policy work, really fighting for strong climate action plans. And that also contains strong environmental justice components in those plans throughout the San Diego region at the city level, as well as at the county level. After that, I went to work as a policy advisor for an elected official. I think in Seattle, you guys call them county executives. And so my focus was land use and environmental justice. And that's kind of, my background in the environmental and conservation sector a little bit. I didn't have direct conservation experience, but I worked with a lot of county staff that were the implementers of many of our conservation efforts and environmental justice efforts. And really why I came to EarthCorps is one, their commitment to racial equity and environmental justice, right? So having worked for many organizations that say this commitment, that talk about the commitment, but really don't walk the walk when it comes down to it, it was really important for me to join an organization that really was deeply committed to that. And from the job description that I saw to the many meetings that I had with staff and board members, I truly felt that they were ready for this shift, that they were committed to this shift in a deep way. And I felt, again, with the tools and the career and experience that I brought to the work, I felt like it was a really good fit.
Well, yeah, I think we can all say that we're so happy to have you on board and glad you're in the position that you are. So I guess just really quickly, just touching on EarthCorps and as you joined, can you share more about EarthCorps' new strategic direction and how it prioritizes restoration activities for BIPOC and underserved communities? And then what inspired this shift in the focus?
Yeah, so we have shifted to center racial equity and environmental justice in all of our work. I will talk about what inspired that shift was our core members and our staff. Really, over time, we've had many core members who come here. They come here for a year or 6-month service term. And many of them were saying, we came here to serve. What are we doing in Bellevue, or what are we doing in these wealthier, more affluent communities? And same thing with staff members who really started asking for change around the work that we're doing and how we're doing it, because these folks are well aware of the changes that are needed and the need that's out there for our communities, right? And so this shift was inspired from the ground level, where they just kept on asking for more. And the board finally listened when they really started seeing change in turnover, and you know, that's when it was time to make a shift in the organization as a whole. Steve Dubiel, who was my predecessor, felt that he wasn't the right person to make that shift, and I really honor him for seeing that, and stepping down. And that's when the search began for me to join the team. And I love Steve, still a great friend, and has been so supportive to this day. But so I was brought on to help make this shift happen. So we created a new strategic plan, a 3-year plan, where we involved everyone in our community, from our funders to our volunteers to our past core members, alumni of the program, our board members, past board members, to really create the vision of what EarthCorps' future looks like. And how it's come to be is really to be community centered, right? In all of the work that we do. It includes a new funding model, right? How are we going to fund this work? And the way that it's been historically funded has been part of the problem. Is we work where communities can pay us to do the work, which means that communities that cannot pay us don't get to benefit from our work. And so shifting where we're getting funding from to get as much grant funding as possible so that we can do the work where the community truly needs it to be done. And part of this is also meeting the community where the community is at and supporting them with any resources that we have, not just the work that we are historically used to doing, right? If we have funding that we can provide them, if we can support them with grant writing resources, if we can support them with people power, right? So making sure that we're meeting with the communities, truly learning about their needs, meeting whatever needs we can meet as an organization, and then leveraging other partners and other organizations and other resources that we can tap into to support them however they need to be supported. It's been very, very successful. We're very happy to see what's already happened in just under 2 years and what's going forward. But not only getting to know the community, but then working together to co-design projects. So what are projects that we can do with our core members, that we can bring with our restoration experience, to work together to meet community needs, to create more green spaces in the communities that need them, and to restore their lived environments. And so it's been a big shift for us, but I will say, I think the community feels the true commitment to it. And then as a result, we're not able to meet the needs that are coming to us. More and more people want to get involved. We are getting more inquiries from partners. And so we're trying to work as hard and as fast to raise the money that's needed to support them in any way we can.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So just kind of getting more to you, what are your long-term goals that you hope to achieve while at EarthCorps, while in the leadership role?
Ooh, good question. I would say getting to a place where all of our work is community-based. We're working not only on the ground level, but working to change things on a systemic level. And when I talk about getting to our work of a place where it's all community-based, right? We made an investment this year. We were like, we want to invest 50 days where EarthCorps eats those costs that are to be centered for community, to be all community work. And our mindset was, if we build it, they will come, right? If we show that the model works, if we show that there is a need, then funders will want to fund that. And so I'm very happy to say that next year, a quarter of all our days are paid for by grants. Nearly 200 days have been funded next year. And we also have secured some funding for 2025 as well. And the goal is to get that to 100%, right? To get all of our days to be community centered. And then when I talk about working not only on the ground level, but working to change things on a systemic level, is getting more engaged in climate policy, right? We know that the work that we do on the ground is very, very important to climate resilience, but we also know that we need more investment from government and more change on a systemic level to get to where we need to be to solve the climate crisis as quickly as possible. And so we have gotten more involved and engaged on a small scale level, supporting some of Pramila Jayapal's bills, as well as Governor Inslee's bills, which has gotten us as part of the Washington Climate Core Network and funding from that. And so we want to continue to expand that work and get the community engaged in that work, empower the community to ask for what they need from our government, and to really make sure that we're getting more resources on a systemic level to where they're needed. Additionally, building out the pipeline for the environmental sector to make sure that more members from the communities that are most impacted from the climate crisis are part of the sector and are part of building the solutions that we need. And so we want to continue to diversify our core. We want to continue to diversify our staff, and overall the environmental sector as a whole.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You keep mentioning the core a lot. And so during all this change, it's been noted that you've raised the pay for both staff and core by finding creative new funding sources. You've mentioned the grants and stuff. So why was this an important move for you as you came in? And how did you make that happen?
Yeah. I think for me, it's like a few things, right? We have to shift the value that we put on this work. As a society as a whole, we don't value the work that the nonprofit sector does as a whole, right? When people go into the nonprofit space, they're not going into it to make the big bucks, right? They're going into it because they're passionate and it's important work. But often that comes at a true cost, right? That comes at a cost of mental health, right? When people are living paycheck to paycheck, when people are struggling day to day, and it's hard to then come into the work, which is also hard work. It's also emotionally laborious work. It's also hard on your mental health coming into, especially in the environmental sector, right? And so part of it, the way that I see it, is we have to be the change that we wish to see, right? If we want society to value this work, we need to value this work. And it's important that we do that. And it's important that we also make sure that funders know the importance of that change. Additionally, when you think about BIPOC folks, including myself, right, we are not just supporting ourselves most of the time, we are also supporting our families. And so when you are paying low wages, you limit who has access and who's able to do this work. And we've seen that very much in our core, which then impacts the environmental sector as a whole, right? That has historically been majority whites. And so if we want to diversify the core, if we want to diversify the people in this sector, we have to pay more. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see people in the program that, have support from their families, who have savings accounts, who things like that, who can afford to take a pay cut like this, who tend to come from privileged communities. And again, they're important. We want them in this space as well, but we also want to see representation from people who are going to be most and who are being most impacted by the climate crisis. Another piece of this is retention, right? Not only do we want people to be part of the team, and we also want to make sure that we retain them, that we increase the possibility in order to increase that possibility, we have to make sure that we're taking care of our people. And that's not only with pay, that's also with time off, that's also with good benefits, right? We want to make sure that this work is sustainable for the folks that are entering the work. And how we've done it is investment, right? Huge investments. Part of it initially, EarthCorps had a good chunk of reserve funding that, again, thank goodness that we've had people managing our finances in a good way and good stewards. So part of it was an investment where we tapped into some of those reserves. And I'm not talking about reserves. We've got a reserve bank for like emergency, and then we had some funding on top of that. So we still continue to maintain our reserves, but and then going after grant money, going as quickly as possible to increase our grant revenue, and going after grants that are non-restricted, going after grants that cover operational cost has been another way. And that's the way we plan to continue to sustain it and grow.
Awesome. I want to just kind of follow up on one thing that you mentioned in there, and that was regarding mental health, and especially in the environment these days, as people who are attending this summit are kind of going through. And I know that there's another session that talks about the environment and anxiety around the environment. How do you see the leadership of your team, of your staff, helping those core members that come in day out and do those little work that might not seem like a whole lot, but is making such a huge impact?
Yeah, so we try to provide a variety of resources to the core and support them as much as possible. I will say the program team does a really, really great job of supporting the core where they're at. of making sure that the core feel that they have a space that they can come to when they're having a hard day. We encourage our core members to take mental health days as needed. And we also do that with the staff, and we are intentional. We are trying to be very intentional about the training that we provide to the core. So trying to increase training on mindfulness and providing mindfulness tools to the core, as well as eco-anxiety training that's rooted in environmental justice and racial equity, because we recognize that many of our core members who used to come to us out of hope and inspiration are now coming to us because they're hopeless, because they're scared. And so we want to make sure that we're providing the resources and the tools to help them navigate this time, help them navigate their futures in a space where they feel like they still have the power to be the change and to bring the change that's needed.
Great. And kind of one mental health tool, and this is my transition, one mental health tool that I've frequently heard and something I practice myself is meditation. And word around Seattle is that you are quite the meditator. Can you tell us about how and why you got into meditation over the last year? And I've heard it's quite in depth about the amount of work you put into your meditation.
Yes. So I've been a meditator for probably, I don't know, like over 10 years now, but I've never truly been consistent. For me, it's been, there's a lot of research on the benefits of meditation for the brain, for the body. And so for me, that's kind of what got me into it. Is I'm very much like science. I believe in science. And so what I have seen in that time is the moments where I am consistent, I see the benefits in my life. I see my thoughts change. I'm able to make better choices. But really this year I've been on a journey of healing, and part of that for me was to really start getting into my practice again and to be consistent. And so I started meditating every day, and got a friend who was pushing me to meditate for 30 minutes a day, and really got into a good groove and was looking for a meditation retreat. And many of them cost thousands of dollars. And I can't afford that. And luckily I found one that was free, a 10-day silent free meditation retreat. And I was like, okay, I want to go to that. And was fortunate enough to be able to go and attend. And the team did such a great job to be able to take care of things so that I could take that space for myself, and have come back really feeling like a different person, have truly seen just from those 10 days, the change that it had in my being, but also since returning have really made a commitment to do an hour a day. So I've done that every morning since I've returned, and have found a couple nights where I put in another hour. My goal is to get to 2 hours a day, but for now I'm starting at 1 hour because I think that's going to be more sustainable. And I've kept it, and I've seen the benefits in my happiness and my compassion and my patience, my productivity, even how much sleep I need. My energy levels are significantly higher. So I've seen all these benefits in all areas of my life. So I do really plan to keep it as a core part of my life, as something that I prioritize. Just like you brush your teeth every day, that's going to be how important it is. It's just something that gets done every single day, because I truly see the benefits. And I know that if I continue to increase my time with hopefully getting to those 2 hours a day, that I will truly see long-term benefits for my life.
You noticed mentioned a lot of personal benefits. Have there been a lot of professional benefits as well, and maybe how you lead your team?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, it's only been, I've gotten back like a little over a week I've been back. But yes, I definitely feel like my patience is different. My compassion for the team is different. I think my gratitude for the team is significantly higher. And then my productivity level is higher as well. So I am seeing, I do see how long-term, how those are going to benefit the team overall.
Great. Awesome. Kind of just steering back towards the leadership aspect. What is some of the best leadership advice you've ever received?
Good question. I mean, I don't know if I can speak to leadership advice. I will say some of the best advice I've ever gotten was do what you love and the rest will follow. And I found that when I've done that everything has worked out the way it needed to be, even in times where I didn't know how things were going to end up. And I have found, when people follow their passion, they tend to do better, and be happier. And so I would say that, and yeah.
Awesome. You mentioned that you're a person of color, and we're seeing an increase in women in executive leadership in nonprofits. I did some research and recently seen it's about 50%, which is super exciting, but we're not fully there yet with people of color and in our BIPOC communities. And so we'll love to see kind of that transition. But what advice do you have for women of color interested in transitioning or advancing a career in nonprofit management?
Also a good question. Be prepared that it's hard. It's very hard. You're going to face hard things. You're going to be questioned in ways that white men and men in general aren't questioned. And that will come from your board. It will come from your team. It will come from community members. But I think it's hardest when you're dealing with it internally. And so one, be prepared for that. I think some ways that you can be prepared for that is trusting your gut, right? Trusting your gut on what you came here to do, or what you are doing at your own organization or in the work that you're doing. And make sure that you have allies, folks who have your back, who understand your vision, who understand what you're trying to do, and are going to support you no matter what. Because I think that's going to be important. There are some folks on the board and on the team that I would say I would not have survived without their support, without their unconditional without their unconditional love and support, and trust, right? They trusted me, and they knew, they believed in what I was trying to do, even in times where other people were questioning it, even in times where things got really hard. And because of that, I think I was able to push through those more challenging moments. But I think it's just important that folks know that it is hard and there will be hard moments. But if you push through and you have people that are supporting you no matter what, that then it's worth it, right? I think thinking about the challenge that I face and seeing now where EarthCorps is at, I'm very proud of the work that we've done and what we've accomplished in less than 2 years. But throughout that, there were people who doubted it, right? There were people who doubted the possibility, who thought it was impossible. But now, we're showing that it is possible and that change can happen. And so just to stick it through.
Awesome. Yeah, I think those are some great words, great advice and great words to live by. As we kind of wrap up, is there anything around EarthCorps that you want to try and promote, or anything that you want to get out there that's going on right now, maybe locally, maybe internationally? I know we have international core and stuff like that.
Yes. So we're currently hiring. We're currently hiring for our core members for next year and our international cohort. So if you know people that would be a great fit for either role, please encourage them to apply. We're trying to get offers and all that completed by the end of the year. So there is still time, but we are actively looking for people to join our program. And really excited to bring back our international program in full force next year.
That's awesome. Well, I think that kind of wraps up all the time we have. Thank you, Evlyn, for taking the time and speaking with us. And thank you all for watching this session.